All right, we're continuing down the rabbit hole of Stephen King.
This is quite a. Yeah, I'm just gonna stop that.
Hey, leave them hanging with the profundity.
Suspense. Stay tuned for the next one for the end of that segment.
Stay tuned to part 4 till I finish that thought.
We're moving on down the line to Christine, which marked the beginning of... Well, not the beginning because he had explored it with trucks, but he has a thing with cars.
Yeah,
and rightfully so, because they tried to kill him on various occasions, and they almost did back in 99. There you go, the cool picture in the back there with him in his car.
Which he hates.
Christine, sentient fucking car, evil.
That's actually what it says in the back of the movie.
Yeah. It was adapted into a pretty cool little adaptation from John Carpenter, man.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I think its cult is growing as we speak. I mean, there's not much to say about the movie other than
it's fun.
Yeah, it's a fun endeavor into Kingland, and I think it captured just the right moments in the novel. It doesn't deviate too far from it, so that's good.
It deviates in the right way.
Yes,
I think.
Yeah,
like the novel has. The novel is clearly the car is possessed by a character from the past, like the corpse is in the back seat,
right?
And John Carpenter was like, we just had a talking corpse accompany the main character in American Werewolf in London. So he's like, get that out of here, get that shit out. No offense, Stephen King, but he was like, no, we're just gonna make it. He carpenterized the villain, which is like a faceless evil. So he's like, Christine, the car is just evil. We don't know how or where or why, and it just is that way. Accept it or not. You know, and you either accept it or not.
So it's like let's say the Michael Myers of cars.
Exactly. No, that's perfect.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. That change was.
Or do you agree with that? Do you prefer the novel version, or
I like them both equally, but like you said, he changed the right elements so that I could enjoy them both at the same level in for their own merits, and yet it's still Christine, and Christine's still that, and you know. But you're right. That was a great alteration that he did there, and because it made it. It is John Carpenter's Christine. It says, So it is, and yet at the same time, you're still getting that King vibe, that King flavor.
Oh yeah.
So
especially in the high school stuff, it's just. I think that stuff is just as good as in Carrie or in Stand by Me or whatever. He just writes high school turmoil really well, and the smart screenwriters who adapt good adaptations of his work, they recognize that stuff and they translate it.
Absolutely. Okay, so next we have another book he almost threw away because he couldn't handle the subject matter based off, as most of his books, something that happened to him or almost happened to him. He almost lost his son. I think it was Owen.
Wilson?
Yes, Owen Wilson, the secret
the
son
Lost
of Stephen
King. Oh wow, that's a Stephen King project waiting to happen.
It's terrifying already.
For the nose.
Basically, we have a scenario where
Owen Wilson gets in trouble.
That's how it's a sort of how he gets the deviated septum or whatever the condition is. Sorry, deviated septum sufferers.
We're not sorry.
Yeah.
But Pet Sematary had basically brings to question what would happen if you brought someone back from the dead because you couldn't bear to be apart from them.
Yeah.
But then it throws the corkscrew at you that hey, they're not exactly right. They're not the same. There's something horribly wrong. But he does it in such a gut-wrenching way, man. And I mean, it's gut-wrenching when it happens to the pet, and it's all the more weird and horrifying when it happens to the kid. And it was one of the I think one of the best adaptations of his work. He did do the screenplay, so maybe that had a lot to do with it. And love the movie, love the book, definite must-read King. What do you think, Spielbergo?
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. And I saw it a couple of years ago, the movie in a repertory theater for the first time on the big screen, and it fucked me up. I was like, this movie is so fucking scary. Like, it's so disturbing. The book it disturbed him. He didn't want to publish it for a long time. He kept it in a drawer. That movie's just great. It's a wonderful movie. It's such a horrifying situation. It's interesting to think that it's kind of his version of a zombie movie in a way, because they're zombies, but they're just not flesh eaters.
As we see them now,
they're murderous, they're homicidal, but and yeah, it's just like it's another variation on he loves like that Indian burial ground kind of, and it's creepy whenever I go hiking or whatever and see some weird rock formation. I think it's a burial ground from Pet Cemetery. Can I bury a pet here?
Please do.
Yeah. So it's a wonderful book. It's one of his best, honestly.
And did you see the movie? I don't remember. Yeah, I remember you loved Fred Gwynn.
Good.
I remember the movie.
Yeah, good taste.
Great. A long time ago.
Well, you'll love Fred Gwynn in it.
I remember liking it.
Next, we have The Cycle of the Werewolf, which was actually a calendar that he released, and each month you would flip it over and there'd be a new part to the story.
It's about the menstrual cycle of a werewolf.
Yeah. And he's pissed, or she's pissed. But yeah, I mean, the title basically says it all. It's a werewolf tale, and it's not too intricate a story. As you can see, it's sliver thin. Oddly, the art by Bernie Wrightson somewhere in here, whatever. Anyway, I wasn't never a particularly great fan of the story because it feels anemic, and it is. Mm-hmm. But I mean, come on, it was a calendar for crap's sakes.
Yeah. As far as calendar stories goes,
it beats the shit out of an advent calendar or anything. In my opinion, I don't know.
It did spawn, however, a Corey Haim, was it? Starring flick called Silver Bullet.
He's dead now.
Yeah, he's dead.
That he is.
So killed by werewolf. I'm gonna go ahead and say that the only thing I remember from Silver Bullet, I remember it being like, all right, cool, I guess.
Pants werewolf?
Yeah. If you look carefully. The werewolf suit on the guy, it didn't taper down to his ankles, so it looked like he has werewolf pants. That's what I remember from that.
It's fun. You should revisit it, actually. Like, I know Quentin Tarantino loves it. So when he loves some kind of weird, obscure thing, it's worth a look because there's usually something about it. And he's right. Like, he really loves Gary Busey's performance in it. He's a real, it's one of Gary Busey's more sedate performances. He's like this kind of wacky uncle to Corey Haim.
Right.
And it's really good, actually. It's a really good performance. He had come off recently, I think, getting Oscar nominated for Buddy Holly's story.
I haven't.
Yeah, and he was great in that, or maybe not too close, but yeah, it's good. It's got great Stephen King town. Great. If you think about Stephen King writing the premise where like a town is going to retaliate against a werewolf killing people, and it's populated by those Stephen King yokels. It's worth watching for that alone. The yokels are great. When they go out and hunt a werewolf and meet their end in like a foggy swamp. The werewolf looks like shit. Granted.
He's got pants.
I'm just gonna tell you.
Werewolf pants.
But yeah, I would check it out again.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. Yeah, because I remember not hating and going, all right, but werewolf pants.
Werewolf pants.
If you like werewolf pants, this is your movie.
That's the way to go with the werewolf. I can't find my copy of whatever the fuck. Anyway,
werewolf pants.
Next, I don't know what the hell's next. Oh yeah, where is it, dude? I'm gonna admit right now, off the cuff, that I have never read The Talisman, although everybody loves it. So I'm just going to say that. Have you read The Talisman?
I have not read The Talisman, but I know people want to make it into a movie. Steven Spielberg wants to make it into a movie. They keep talking about it over the years, him and Stephen King.
I'm scared of that.
I think Mick Garris was attached to it once being produced by Spielberg, because Mick Garris started under Spielberg as an Amazing Story, the editor of the show,
right?
Amazing Stories. Yeah. So, but yeah, so movie coming eventually. I know there's scripts out there for it. It seems like a kid's story to me, so I kind of stayed away from it because of that.
Because you hate kids.
Yeah, because I hate kids. We've established I hate kids movies, like whatnot. Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe I'll get to reading it someday.
Yeah, too. So that was informative, huh?
Yeah, right. But, you tell us. Did you like The Talisman?
Yes, tell us below, all 1 billion of you.
Oh God,
please.
I'm sorry. Don't. Yeah.
No, tell us, please. It does have a sequel called The Black House, which I know was not as well received as this. In fact, it was kind of like there was a backlash against it. But I know people love this book, so I have to check it out.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. It happened.
Yeah.
Next, we have Skeleton Crew, which I can't find for some damned reason, but it contains one of my favorite Stephen King stories, and that is The Mist.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Man, I used to read this thing at least once a year around Halloween because I loved it. It felt like a 50s throwback type of flick, but it had all that great Stephen King stuff. The townies, the realization that the real monsters are not the hideous beings, but the people themselves. Even the good ones at times, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes some of his best work. And The Mist got adapted into a Frank Darabont flick, and he brought us, of course, Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile, which we'll discuss in a bit. And I loved it, man. And for the most part, people either loved it,
they hate that ending,
or they liked it. They liked it, but the ending destroyed them.
Dumb.
And I love that ending, man. I don't think it's just for the sake of doing it, as a lot of people say. It's gut-wrenching, and it makes sense.
And it fits.
And, oh my God, it's so devastating. I thought it was a beautiful ending.
They're reacting to it because it devastates them so much, is what I've noticed. You really got to understand when people tell you something where they're coming from.
It's that, and now it's gone to the point where people are just saying they hate it.
Exactly.
Because of DC reasons.
Exactly. or like, because the ending is...
Because they heard that it sucks.
Yeah, and the ending is really, it's intentionally ambiguous in the short story, which works fine for that. You're left to wonder, but it's the emotional wallop of the film ending is worth the deviation from the source material, I think.
And I seem to recall at the ending of they see the massive Titan creature, and it kind of robs them of the final wisp of hope. And then this weird luminous being lands on the hood of the car, and they hear a faint, maybe some sort of radio message coming through the radio. I seem to remember that. But it does end so ambiguously. I mean, what hope, even if there is somebody somewhere, what hope is there in a world where these things have completely dominated, or are bleeding into ours, and they've completely dominated? So it's really a hopeless ending. I see a lot of comments talking about how the movie just robs you of, but the book, there's less hope in the fucking book.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. I prefer Darabont's ending. I know Stephen King prefers Darabont's ending.
And there you go. That's it. I'm sorry. Like,
doesn't matter what you think, jerkweed.
Exactly.
The guy that wrote it likes it.
You tell Darabont you have problems with it.
You tell Stephen King he's a piece of shit. Go get hit by a car.
Granted, Stephen King liked Dreamcatcher.
That's a good point.
But
also hates The Shining.
Yeah, but it's like
and directed.
Okay, we're taking
maybe
ourselves
don't. Maybe don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I love the movie. I think we all love the movie. It's fantastic.
I think one of my favorite things about it is that you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Definitively.
Yeah.
It's that unknown horror.
That's maybe my only kind of complaint about the movie. They kind of define it a little more in the movie, whereas the short story doesn't. But I love that aspect of it too. Yeah,
and in the movie they venture into.
They give some hints.
The base. They elaborate more on the military aspect that created the rip, so to speak. But it's fucking fantastic. Check it out in black and white. It looks great.
Yeah, it does.
As it was intended to be.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a new TV series coming out, which,
sequel,
as I understand, is holding truer to the Darabont ending as well. So that's cool. Check that out on Spike, I think it's going to be.
Yeah, it's on Spike.
So hopefully it'll not suck.
Oh, yeah.
Or
get canceled
in Spike fashion, get canceled or abandoned. Next, we have now we've talked about The Stand being his opus. We've talked about The Dark Tower series being his magnum opus. And here's another one that you could call one of his opie. Shall we call?
God, to have written opie. That's awesome. Like, you wrote an opus, asshole? Opie? No, I wrote opie.
Multiple. But yeah, man. Who doesn't know this? First of all, if you haven't read the book, you've seen...
the movie.
You've seen the TV series movie, which does a fine job of adapting, I would say, the feeling of the book. It skips a lot. It had to.
Mm-hmm.
But it did capture those kids, their relationships so fucking well. And Tim Curry is timeless as Pennywise. And I think that's the biggest hurdle for the upcoming movie adaptation. Not so much the story. I mean, it's in good hands so far that we've seen. It was in better hands with Fukunaga.
Mm-hmm.
But, we have to deal with he's not there anymore. Okay, that's fine. It's in fine enough hands. With the stuff we've seen, I think you can agree with me. It looks promising as heck.
Sure.
But the biggest hurdle it's going to have is getting Tim Curry's timeless performance out of people's minds because they've associated that with Pennywise so far. But basically the book deals with this evil that recurs, especially in this town of Derry, Maine, every 27 years and basically comes to feed. And it feeds not only on people literally, but on their actions, and it instigates their actions and what have you. And it chooses any form it wants, and it usually it usually chooses that form based on your fear. And of course, its preferred form is the timeless Pennywise the Clown.
It's quite possibly the best clown horror film.
I can't really think of many clown horror films that kick ass like
definitive. Yeah.
But so what are your impressions on it, Spielbergo?
Well, it is my favorite novel of all time.
Ever? Awesome.
Yes, my favorite novel, not only of King's, not only do I think it is a masterpiece, it's my favorite book. It flip-flopped for a long time between that and Moby Dick, but it is probably my favorite novel ever. As I said before, I think it is the monumental story about good and evil because of what Pennywise is. He's a creature who can seemingly indestructible, who can just extract your worst fear out of your mind, into your mind, and formulate it.
It's kind of like Freddy, only cool.
Exactly. Well, it's just more. It's compounded in that not only that, but its other form is a clown. Who the hell is not? Who the hell is not afraid of clowns? Yeah, and that's also the biggest hurdle.
Clowns on Clowns too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like you're right about the new guy playing Pennywise. Like, and I'll know the way I've told myself I'll know if I'm gonna like this or not is by the voice. I need to hear the guy's voice and what voice he brings to Pennywise, and I'll know instantly if I like it or not. Like. Actually a good, if you listen to the audiobook of it, seek it out. It's read by Steven Weber of all people. And he does a really neat job, a really neat interpretation with Pennywise. I never would have thought, but he does a really good one. And I was like, that's really good. I like it. It's creepy. It's scary. So it's worth checking that out. But I like the miniseries a lot. I came to it through the miniseries before reading the book, actually. Yeah, I remember talking about it on the playground the next day,
Yeah. For me, I don't want to cut you off.
No.
For me, the second half of the miniseries is always weird.
That's a lot of
people. Because you get attached to the kids so much that when it shifts to that other scenario, you're like, oh, what the... And then that's the part I don't remember, honestly.
You're right, and that's the thing that they're not doing that the book does. Like, the book is intercut between the adults and the children, and they only halved it the way they did in the TV miniseries because, as I've heard on the commentary, a TV movie like that back in the day falls into 7 acts, and since there were 7 characters, they thought we're going to divvy them up by children and adults for each movie that way, and it'll fall nicely. But it's interspersed. They're intercut in the book.
Do we know how they're going to do it in the movie?
And they're going to do it the same way as the TV adaptation. Just a movie on the kids, the first movie, and then just a movie on the adults. And that's, like you said, that's the new hurdle they have to do. So, I don't know. It's very risky, but it's very ambitious.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
It seems like everybody just remembers the kid bit.
Yeah,
I'm the most scared for this movie because it's my favorite book. Yeah. So I'm like, some guy who's anticipating Hunger Games or Harry Potter or whatever.
I just want to say that there should be a version where Jason Alexander plays Pennywise, just so you can go how. Is that right? What's the kid's name?
Ho Georgie?
Ho Georgie!
He would be great. Hey, I wanted it to be Paul Giamatti, so that's not too far from that craziness.
I wanted it to be Stephen King circa 1985. So he could be high.
It's not pain, it's just coke. And he's snorting it off his head.
Everybody loves it, and hopefully this new adaptation lives up, man. I kind of glossed over Skeleton Crew because we were jizzing on The Mist so much, but it's just a quick note. The story The Raft from Skeleton Crew is in Creepshow 2. Word Processor of the Gods was in an episode of Tales from the Dark Side, which I remember to be at least fun. I know the story's fun. Just imagine being able to write anything into existence. That's pretty badass. But anyway.
Yeah, there's a movie like that.
It's a time-honored story.
There's like monsters. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, but yeah.
after it, he brought us a story that it's not necessarily a prequel to the Dark Tower series, but it's tied into the Dark Tower series, as in provides background for the setting of the Dark Tower series, and most importantly, the backstory of some of the backstory of Randall Flagg before he was Randall Flagg, and it's a mixture of high fantasy and a western. Of all things, kind of like more. The Dark Tower series is more a western than high fantasy, but the elements are there. But that's because the world hasn't fallen yet in this novel. It was not a well-received novel. There was a humongous backlash against it. People hated it. Stephen King kind of felt like complete ass after it. And I gotta say, after re-exploring it, it's not particularly a great novel, and that's, I think, the major problem. I don't care if a writer that predominantly writes horror will go and write drama or will go and write a comedy. I don't care. In fact, I love when they do that. But it's just that it's not particularly great. And the only real substance you get out of it is you get a little bit more background on Midworld, and you get a little bit more background on Randall Flagg, and it's not even that relevant. The ending kind of just peters out. It's not a great novel. But he definitely didn't deserve the backlash that he got for trying something different. Although, really, it wasn't that different, since he had explored the Dark Tower in some sense or another before the world of the Dark Tower. But that brings us to Misery, which we'll discuss next time.
Oh, good, nice save.